Yeah, isn't it amazing? This learning the technology.
It took me a while to figure out how to talk to you, how to broadcast this message that I think is so important. And I believe we've been working on this probably since I met you in Altai. Now the technology is bridging with me and with you to have really important conversations. And I just want to listen to whatever you want to say, Patricia.
Well, I'm happy because I waited a very long time. I keep telling people where are the helpers, and now you all are showing up, and I'm still here. So
It gave me goosebumps just now, just thinking about it. I'm ready to broadcast this podcast that I'm putting out to the world.
yes, thank you for inviting me. And it is appropriate that I introduce myself in the proper way that we convey to others our spiritual identity, our lineage, our bloodline, our matrilineal, and that is our maternal and our paternal. And so I have a ceremonial name, and it cannot be used in public because it's only for me to use in a ceremony that's for me. And it does describe me as a peacemaker, or someone that has no enemies, or that I also value relationships. It conveys the meaning of these English words, but it's not exactly that. So my English name is a Welsh name because it's a label given to my father when he went to Indian boarding school at Haskell Indian School in Lawrence, Kansas. He met my mother, and they just could not pronounce or spell his own name or his father's name. So Patricia Anne Davis, I'm going to say that in English, that's who I'm called. Like Shih-ya means that's what I'm called. Although the that is an affirmation of the fact that we're all a precious child of Creator within creation equally. And I always add that to my introduction. So when I say my warm heart-to-heart greetings to your global audience, it is Ya'ate Shik'e Shidne. And the part that is Ya is everything that is good, beautiful, and true for all of us, for families, for women, for children, for elder, for our right livelihood, our basic needs, everything good. And the last part is that's all I speak. Shik'e, my family, Shidane, my relatives. And that's where, and I just love to tell people that there's no way that it's impossible to say, but not you on the other side of the street, or not you because of your color, or not you on the other side of the ocean, or not you on the other side of the river. There's no way this language does not speak to exclude anyone. And I want that to be clear to people. It is a inclusive, cross-cultural, intergenerational, esoteric, ceremonial language. And it is also universal and practical application. That means there's a common sense that it has been used for generations and centuries. What works for us as a humane being, as an earth surface person, and also that it could be translated into any language anywhere in the world. So thank you for this invitation.
A few weeks ago, I very randomly got invited to go to a sweat ceremony with one of the Muckleshoot tribe on their reservation in Auburn, and there were two messages that came from the sweat really clearly to me. And one thing that happened that I didn't expect, but my grandfather showed up. And the two messages that I took away from it was that there are no coincidences and the time is now. And those two things together have just sort of propelled me into reestablishing these connections and really trying to broadcast these conversations. And so that's my motivation. And I just would love to hear what you think about those two concepts of there's no coincidences and that the time is now.
But first, I would like to mention that when I was 8 years old and I was initiated by my own father in a healing practice, then I was also told very specifically to undo. That means to dismantle. That means to deconstruct the thinking. That's what my father told me, the thinking that caused our people so much violence and suffering. And he said it in just that way, that simple way. And so that's why I create opportunities to be visible, to educate. And that means that I am going into the public arena. The time is now means mass healing, and the way to do it is through mass media. And that's because there's no coincidences. Carl Jung, the Swiss psychologist, who was the only Western psychologist who tried in his lifetime to integrate spirituality into Western psychology, called this principle synchronicity. That means meaningful co-occurrence. We say, oh, we just don't think of it as meaningful. And so we're all interconnected and interrelated in a oneness. I could just call it oneness in English, because we're existing simultaneously within creation with Creator, who is not outside of or separate. We're not outside of or separate, not otherworldly, or it's not in the future. It's in the now. In the now, we're existing in such a way that we're traveling our life journey, not from a beginning to an end in a linear way, but the natural order is circular, from like the clock and the seasons and the time and moon phases, and we're already in alignment with that. And so your father, your grandfather, your father's father, or your mother's father?
My mother's father.
Your mother's father, so that your maternal grandfather would convey to you through I would call it through telepathy. Because
I would say that, yeah.
Because when it's coming from our own soul, I call that revelation. When we sit in meditation and listen and breathe and sit properly in a safe way, that's revelation from our own soul purpose and life mission. But when it comes from ancestral knowledge or the spiritual beings that guide us and protect us, then I call that telepathy. And so that's a natural, it's not superstition. It's a way that we communicate. Even we know that most communication, 99%, is nonverbal. It's body language and eye contact and so on. And so telepathy is just a powerful way that we outpicture our our vision for our intention and our spiritual connection with others. And so that's being congruent and being in alignment with the very laws that govern us.
Mhm.
So it's a natural gift that we all have that we're not using for its appropriate purpose. So yes, the time is now, and it has been for quite some time, and it's taken people crises
Mhm.
to remember and reawaken. And that's because people want to believe that this is erroneous, again, telling the body wrong information, which is that a spiritual path is pain and suffering. It's being not worthy, and it is also being poverty, and these are all in the inverse thinking system, and especially
Right.
women, a big toxic word that we should eliminate from our vocabulary is sacrifice. No, we're here to serve. We're here to serve in the world. We're a spark of divinity. Use that word, and then we have inherent sovereignty with Creator within creation. Then we have an inherent genius gift to serve in the world. And so I'm just taking you through a reframe right now
Mhm.
out of the deficient self-image and inverse thinking system to an affirmative thinking system that acknowledges and has gratitude for the way of being that we are to serve in the world with this gift. So you are definitely inspired in a safe and supportive environment. And a ceremonial place always requires no judgment, no punishment, and no condemnation.
Everything you say makes so much sense to me that I hope that it resonates with as just as deeply as it with everybody as it has with me. And I do know that I've listened to your YouTube videos. I've also listened to you talk to me in person when I'd say we were probably stressed out when we got turned away from the border. And even at that most stressful point, I thought, I can't believe that I'm experiencing this with somebody who is pretty much maybe taking it all in just as I am. Like uh, we were just kind of going to see where that day took us, and it didn't take us across the border that we wanted, but I think at least for me, it took me on a different journey, and that was 4 hours in a car uh, with you and hearing all of your wisdoms and all of these like wonderful things that I don't know if I, especially at that time in my life, if I would have sat still for that long. I mean, just because I go and I do a lot of things. It's hard for me to sit still. So for me to have that gift, it really was life changing. So I want you to know how much I appreciated that.
I'll remember that it took 4 documents, which was passport, an invitation, a passport, and then there's the permit for getting into Altai Republic. Visa, I think. A visa.
Yeah, I think it was a visa. Yeah.
Right. Those 4 documents. And at that particular day that you arrived, then, I thought it was more like 6 hours.
Oh, it might have been.
That's only because I had been that distance before.
Yeah.
It's more like 6 hours, and that's only one way in their computer.
Right. Yeah.
In Siberia wilderness, we were not in their computer.
Right.
And we both then had to come back to I believe it was
Gorno Altais, I think.
Yes, Gorno Altais.
Yeah.
And that was a very, we might say, serendipitous, we might say a spontaneous ceremonial time that we spent
It was
together. And we had just met and could relate and in such a way that we were not really, even though it could be stressful. I don't think that either one of us were stressed. So I think we were enjoying the ride in the wilderness, just being so far in a place that it was beautiful. The landscape was beautiful. And then we're not hearing any English anywhere. It's
Right.
all Russian everywhere.
Yes, everywhere.
Truly, truly everywhere. Love their music.
Yeah, I did
Came
too.
away with a very deep love for their language, their culture, and their music, because we were mostly in the wilderness.
Yeah, we were, because I remember we were washing our clothes in the garden. And I took a video that day because sometimes I find the most mundane things to be, like we all have to wash our clothes, but today I'm washing them in Siberia in a garden, and it was beautiful. The sun was really warm, even though I wasn't expecting Siberia to be that warm, but it was August.
Well, at a time like that, it's so magical too, because I see myself, I look at myself and I look at my surroundings and I think, oh, I think I'm in a movie,
It's true.
I'm the star in this movie.
Yeah, it's so true. You couldn't make up a more unreal story than what we were living at that moment. It was really surreal.
Yeah, and there's a outhouse in the corner of the garden, and
Yeah.
then there's way
Yeah, I remember. I can see it in my mind
far,
like it was yesterday.
and there's no running water and so on. They do travel in they're still traveling in wagon by horse-drawn wagon,
Hmm.
a rectangular wagon, not a European buggy. And then also the women had scarves on like Navajo women,
Hmm.
and they had tiered skirts like Navajo women. So their tribal dress was the same. And we would walk from the camp where we would walk to closest store was, I think, 3 miles away. And we would walk there, and it would be like walking on the reservation to a trading post. And the indigenous men and women that were there were just like Navajos standing around the trading post on my reservation. Well, this is one of the main teaching. I like to tell people that I'm only interested in the unifying principles, all the teaching and principles that unify us. And so one of the teaching that I always remember to talk about is, let's stop doing this enemy creation. Let's stop devaluing and dehumanizing others. Let's befriend each other. Let's learn each other's language and culture. And so we were immersed in that situation because there's no wash machine, washer and dryer, even our cell phones, all the things that we think that is, well, I didn't experience that. When I grew up, there was TV and radio, but they were not in my household, and I didn't have no telephone, and definitely did not have a doll or any toys. Just played in the red rocks and the tumbleweed in the Southwest on Eastern Navajo Agency, Eastern Navajo Reservation. So reservation life, I didn't grow up in a city or town or neighborhood. And so I was very at home there. And most people would be panicking if they did not have at their fingertips they need what they have in the city as they believe that they need. So I'm just encouraging people, the enemy creation is then how we use power over with brute force and deception. And that's what I call also the empire folly. And we call all of that, we have one word, we call it Wachon. Wachon means win-lose, nobody wins, and destructive and death-producing decision and outcome. So historically, women have had to pay to lose, agree to lose, and pay to lose, as well as with people of color. And so now the people who consider themselves as elite and aristocracy and so on, the empire folly is now crumbling because it doesn't work. Anytime we say that we're chosen, we're more than others, we're better, we're higher, and they're lower and less, then we are setting ourselves up for continuing to launch invasions. That's what happened here in Turtle Island, as well as all the other countries that were colonized. Is empire folly is invasion and genocide, which is mass murder, and then plunder and pillage, which is mass theft. And we can't continue to have a birthday party on the mass graves of our ancestors. It's not healthy for us to continue denying and telling the next generation and recruiting them to participate in their own demise, to follow the same pattern, to literally actually teach them how to become addicted to greed, such that we would be in warfare continually.
Mm-hmm.
And every time then we kill and bomb others, we're really harming ourselves, because we've polluted the land with nuclear waste, and we have polluted the oceans and the water, and then we have polluted the air as well, even intentionally, in terms of chemtrails. There's metals like aluminum and cyanide. Combine that with we were talking about electronics. We have to be careful about the radiation. There are certain levels that are safe. And if we have a military level of lethal radiation like 5G, which can dismantle the oxygen molecule, then with cyanide poisoning, then we're going to see hypoxia, which is suffocation. That is taking away the natural order of in life. Is not all give or all take. It's the in-breath and out-breath, the balancing with nature. That is our fundamental stewarding of taking care of ourselves and taking care of earth, water, fire, and air. And it's reciprocal. We take care of it and it takes care of us. And that's what people are looking to Indigenous people today, is what people forgot, because they rather just understand what the intention of people with the money going from the poor to the rich every generation, from the bottom to the top. I call it a planetary cosmic reframe. That means it goes from elder to youth clockwise. That's called a leverage point. That means the micro and the macro reflect. A small change makes a mega change.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm asking people to do their part. I'm doing my part to motivate and inspire that within your own brain, whole brain thinking and conscience and moral reasoning, you have the capacity built in, yes or no, to choose that our resources are distributed equally and not manipulated and controlled from going from the bottom to the top, from the poor to the rich, from the elder to the next generation. That's what I'm calling a planetary cosmic reframe. And I also call it a reverent revolution, because it's not the bottom overthrowing the top in a coup, or it's not the top doing a sting on the bottom or on each other. One can claim to be doing a coup and the other can be claiming to do a sting. Well, they're equally telling themselves and all of us erroneous information with very serious consequence. And so the youth can reframe we can all reframe our thinking that a reverent revolution is making decision for the next 7 generation, every generation making decision for the next 7 generation. So that's the decision for restoring our resources to the next generation.
When you say a reverent revolution, feels like a big global hug. I know the one thing that I've found quite a calling for that keeps going in front of my path is clean water. I've been working with the Clean Water Foundation, and they actually are delivering water filters to the Navajo and Hopi reservations. I think clean water is something that everybody needs. I think people have realized, like, oh my gosh, wait, there's people in our own country that don't have clean water. And I think it's almost more important to help people closest to home first and ripple out from there instead of trying to do something too big. I mean, it's the little things.
Well, it's a fact that is not well known that for many years, a lot of years, that pure, pristine water was used to slurry the coal from the Navajo reservation to California. So, do you hear what I'm saying? Pure, pristine water
Mm-hmm.
from the watershed underground was
Mm-hmm.
used to slurry. That means it was used to transport coal
Mm-hmm.
for electricity for the large urban areas in California for so many years.
So it just poisoned the water supply? Is that basically what it did?
Yes, and fracking as well. And now we have politicians saying they support fracking. That is a type of insanity that says, well, you're going to dig holes in the ground in such a way that you're going to contaminate the very water that is the water is a medicine and the water is life. And tuapahajoni and all the mineral qualities and life energy in water that we experience in the glacier water that we had opportunity to drink every day, that was still alive and had the minerals in it, real water from the glacier mountain. I to this day crave that water because the water today it's not water, and definitely we are continuing to justify the toxins and the insanity of deliberate toxins that are coming from the sky, and also the nuclear waste in the land. And then the water is one that how does when I say insanity, that means that what is real, like earth, water, fire, and air is real, that's made unreal.
Mm-hmm.
And then what is not real, like what we value, that is just goes into all the what we call trash, that there's no, we say we're going to throw them away, but we've been told time and time again there's no away. It goes into the oceans. And I've been there on the Atlantic near Bermuda to see plastic bottles and trash. So the unreal is made real and more valuable than the real. That's what I'm calling insanity.
Mm-hmm.
And when one person was told that the all of the natural resources, that's extraction of natural resource. So we're consuming and extracting, and that is what is causing our out of balance condition. So clears and cleanses and burns up. We call it getting sick, but it's purifying and cleansing our body naturally. We are so overwhelmed that our bodies are overtaxed in responding, and so we're afraid of a virus that is something natural in our body that helps us, and then we're thinking that it is attacking us, all the while that all the toxic pollutants are intentionally poisoning us.
Mhm.
And to acknowledge and awaken, and then to have group consensus about saying no.
Mhm.
Fracking is not good for the earth and not good for us, no matter how much money is made from it, because it is destructive. So that's all that my work is about, is discerning what is destructive and death producing and what is constructive and life affirming. It's just that simple. Yes or no. I'm asking people, choose again and choose wisely, because that's your own life and your children and grandchildren, your own loved ones, as well as yourself. So wake up to this alignment that's already existing within you and use it for what it's for.
Have so much gratitude for being able to have this time with you. And I feel very positive about this conversation. It feels really good.
And I described just the phases of the Indigenous ceremonial change process. That's what I named it in English.
Mhm.
It is a sequencing, just like sunrise, noon, evening, midnight, that kind of sequencing, because you can't really rearrange it. So it's naming, and it's from authentic ceremonial change process. The change happens within us interpersonally. Our power within to have power with each other eliminates the need for power over. So one is naming an out of balance condition and identifying the root cause that keeps that out of balance condition out of balance. And then the next one is the correction, the emptying. That means giving up the lies that we tell ourselves, others, or that we believe, to give them up to what is real and true, meaning in the natural order, where reality is exact, like time and direction, cardinal directions, and gravity, and so on. Women have the capacity to give birth, and so that is the natural order. So reality is exact. So we have to do our correction of, okay, what am I going to do to know what is self-sufficient? What is enough for me? Enough sleep, rest, food, belongings, and what I'm not using and not needing, then I'm going to give to someone else that can use it, that needs it. I'm not going to hoard and put it in storage and so on. To have this energy, reciprocity flowing, to giving and receiving. So phase 3 is that examining our unexamined assumptions and correcting ourself, not and letting everyone else to ask them or motivate them to do their own correction and honor those wellness, healthy boundaries, and not be enmeshed. Enmeshed is unhealthy boundaries. That means to enable and to rescue them to stay the way they are. So then the reframe then is out of the thinking system that doesn't work for our survival. And then we use the thinking system in which we're existing in win-win, constructive and life affirming decision and outcomes with our inherent gifts for serving in the world. And then we align with others in group consensus. Then we are capable of designing co-creative solutions for our very survival, and that we may all thrive, and our future generations will thrive and live life more abundantly. That's the legacy of life. That's all I'm saying, and it's simple, and it's yes and no. But it is a visual illustration to show. The bottom circle shows the win-lose, no win. The top circle shows the win-win. It shows the natural order. And that's what I use very graphically to show people how simple it is to see that what we're experiencing We do not have to stay stuck in continuing old patterns, and we're not our patterns. We are a living person who has all the capability for making the choices that we all can benefit by. We can all benefit together. And that's the illustration of the natural order in which we exist in equally. The laws actually, they're the laws that govern us equally.
Yeah, I'll take extra care to make sure that I try to make it easy for people to find.
Well, I'm so pleased and happy that you have this opportunity yourself, and the resources, the planning, and all of the people that support you in your creative endeavor to carry this out and manifest for the good of the people who are interested and who are committed in helping themselves and each other, and especially their future generations, to know that we don't have to continue in a path that's not good for us. Or we say, well, I'm only going to do what's good for me, and it doesn't matter what happens to you. That's the end. That era is long over, done. Yep. No more, enough. Cannot. It does not work. Capitalism does not work. Privatization does not work. It violates. It is violating spiritual law. In unequal distribution of controlling and manipulating the world resources, and there's no justification at all, except for people's own erroneous beliefs, and they themselves have to realize it and choose differently according to their own conscience and their own moral reasoning.
Hopefully that it inspires positive changes and positive thought patterns, and like you said, changing of old beliefs. And I think everything that you've said is very inspiring.
Well, there's no time and space in the spiritual realm, and we're actually existing in this spiritual realm. Well, we think we exist outside of and separate from it, but no one can. But those who think they are destroying it. So it's important at this time, in this crisis, that we're having to decide and make choices that will take us into the future in a good way.
I see it as being something that are like win-win-win situations. Like they're all across the board, good for everybody and for the earth.
That's right. We're looking at humanity, the environment, and our Mother Earth, climate change. All of these issues have come to our attention, and so people are just now beginning to listen to the indigenous people, because we have been stewards for many generations and many centuries.
Patricia, will you explain to me what the natural order is?
Yes, it's when I say we're all existing within this context, we can use the word context, which is the container. It's the fundamental. Listen carefully, because it's the fundamental basis of equality, which is that our body, our constitution, our organic constitution is, our body is of the very element of Mother Earth. And we have 70% or more water within us, mostly water, the element of water. And we also have fire. So fire is our intellect. I call our thing. Then, of course, it's our temperature within us. And then the air is our in-breath and out-breath. So these four elements must be in harmony and balance within the earth, water, fire, and air that we are existing in, the environment. Think about it. There is the Mother Earth, there's the atmosphere, the sky. There is also oceans, the lakes, the rivers, the streams, the rain, female rain, the male rain. Then there is the fire, which is the solar sun. And then we have fire in our homes, which are electric fire. And then even in our spine, in our body, we have also fire. We might say electric, similar to what is in our household. We have positive and negative. And this fire then is existing in our temperature. So it's existing in our fireplace. Fireplace meaning in our home where there is fire by friction. So electrical fire by friction in the fireplace and the hearth of the home. In our heart is the fireplace of our habitat, our own body sanctuary. And then we have fire in the sun. Those are only 3 words that we can say in the English language. Convey the element of fire. And then we have, so air is the creator's sacred breath. It's not our breath. We are existing by inhaling and exhaling. We know that's called the miracle of photosynthesis, so that the in-breath is oxygen and the out-breath is carbon dioxide. And that's how simple the natural order is. It is in-breath and out-breath. A message there in alignment with the environmental natural order of earth, water, fire, and air. No, we can't be outside of it. No one can be outside of it, separate from it. So we're existing simultaneously in our own 4 elements of earth, water, fire, and air. That's our personal constitution. And then we're existing with creator and within creation simultaneously. So we call this air creator's sacred breath. We're moving around and making a sound. And we have chosen to deny this, that we're existing eternally in this oneness. This oneness, I could describe to you that we have one word we call Hojo, and that word is all encompassing. There is no competing collectivities like any belief system. What is a belief system? That's religion and philosophy and theory, academic theory. Religion, philosophy, and academic theory. These are 4 belief systems. So this is not a belief system. And the natural order is the laws that govern us all equally. So that's why I began with the fact that it's the fundamental basis of equality. That is the natural order context. And I can go a little bit further now, or
so something that I struggle with as a human, and as myself, I sometimes fight technology because I think that it has a kind of a negative feeling. But then when I listened to what you said about electricity and how, our bodies have electricity, or the fire that you're talking about, it really makes me think that perhaps technology is a part of a natural order. It's just the way in which we use it. Can you comment to that?
Exactly. It's intention. Everything is intention. And there's only 2 intentions. Guess what? That's only destructive and constructive. There is only win, lose. That means I win and you lose, and winner take all. For me to live, I kill you. For me to eat, I steal from you. That's win-lose, and nobody wins. And that's destructive, and it's death producing decision and outcomes, which we are now in the mega crisis of experiencing on this planet.
Yeah.
And then there is, of course, what is built within each and every one of us, our authentic spiritual identity as a precious child with creator within creation. And I say precious because I'm using four sacred elements to define the word precious. And then there's constructive. That means that what is built within us, already built within us, existing within us, that's how we're constructed, is our whole brain thinking is designed for its appropriate function, which is whole brain thinking is conscience. So moral reasoning is, of course, that is, I win and you win, and each person wins with their inherent genius gift, so that we have group consensus in designing co-creative solutions for our collective survival, and also to thrive in abundance, and to eliminate the need for the language that denies. And now we're in a time in history that this denial is with deception. There's all the lies. Then it's with deviousness, which is conning and scheming to win. And then there is defiance. So we're witnessing that right now. That's one of four out of balance conditions, specifically to your question in terms of electricity. Of course, is the intention of it is constructive or destructive.
The moment that I decided to embrace technology and what we have, instead of always saying, oh, I'll learn it later or whatever, I just finally, maybe it's the pause we've had with Corona, but I was like, you know what? I'm just going to figure this out. I'm going to do it. And the messages that need to be told are dependent upon somebody getting this out to a larger audience. And even if this audience becomes 100 more people or 10 more people, then the next people that do a similar thing, it grows bigger and bigger until the message is heard. So I'm just playing one little small part, but I know that I'm that you have so much knowledge that's very deeply rooted in even our DNA. I want to hear how you take that knowledge you have and how you bring it to the English language.
I'm not really translating a language, a tribal language, because English is in a different thinking system than indigenous language. English is a trade and commerce language. And so your timing is very good right now, especially with intergenerational transfer of treasure knowledge from elders to youth. And it's cross-cultural as well. And it's inclusive and also universal and practical application. And the work that I'm doing in this community of practice with authentic medicine people, including my own late father and clans, they are the ones who have taught me what I am doing. And so at some point, it's appropriate for me to introduce myself in that manner, to begin in that manner, so that this description and illustration, and there's a indigenous ceremonial change process chart and template and also another illustration which shows a child in a cradle board, and that will show people how I am conveying the authenticity of what I'm speaking. I basically had to invent English terminology, phrases to teach students to see patterns across race, color, nationality, and so on, just to see patterns, and that to note that we are not our pattern. And so that's why in the thinking system of the English language, which I call inverse thinking, this process is a sequencing which requires a reframe into affirmative thinking, which I'm calling the appropriate function of our whole brain thinking, which is our conscience. I'm going to use these words synonymously.
Mhm.
Conscience, whole brain thinking, conscience, moral reasoning, intuition, and especially our creative imagination. All of these words in English convey the word ehozen, which could be simplified into holy thinking. Now, who ever talks about holy thinking as the appropriate function of our thinking? And so it does not translate because English is a trade, commerce, money, finance language. And it's also dualistic. That means that it pits one against the other into people perpetually polarizing into adversary and conflict and warfare. To translate is not the word, it's to describe, and
Mhm.
then it's to illustrate. And so when you say how, then I am specifically first defining the natural order. And the second thing is to define and describe the two thinking systems. And then people are required to reframe their thinking. That means that to examine their unexamined assumptions about the belief that we're all born in some deficient self-image. And that's what Western people believe, that we're born with a shadow side, with a dark side, with the evil side, and that is within us. And that's not true, because water, fire, and air does not. It's impossible. There's no way that these maladaptive emotions like hate, envy, greed, jealousy, anger, shame, guilt, fear, along those maladaptive emotions, they cannot and they do not exist in the body. And so it's undoing, it's dismantling and deconstructing. A reframe means to deconstruct our belief in a deficient self-image. That's the inverse thinking system. And even beyond that, there's the belief that there's an external remediation process, some book, some prophet, some creed, some doctrine, some philosophy or academic theory, or some belief system externally applied will remediate us out of this deficient self-image toward into some end state, like, for example, like civilization, like evolution, like enlightenment, like even education or personal salvation and redemption. So that has to be done in self-reflection, and that has to be given up as not true in the affirmative thinking system, in which we are experiencing our alignment within the natural order, and yet people refuse to acknowledge that or even have gratitude for this way of being. We're in our beingness.
When I met you in Altai, and you had been keeping a list of all of the things that were similar between that you knew in your Navajo nation to everything that that was their indigenous culture. That you had things even like some buttons were the same, or the patterns on the buttons were similar, and then there were similar words, and there were similar there were so many similarities. And I in my mind I was like, wow, these two cultures are worlds away, like as far apart as you can get in on the planet, almost worlds away. And I thought, wow, we're all connected.
I think I had a list of about 17 things that I did write down. And just some of the more obvious ones are the home of Altais people. They have 5 sides or 7 sides or 8 sides. No, 5, I think it's 5 or 8. And so we have 8 sides to the 4 cardinal directions and the ordinal direction. And they also fix sheep and eat sheep, which they prepared a special meal for me. And also the ceremonial hogan, where, well, English they say hogan, but we're calling it howan. And that is both a female structure and there's a male structure. There's one that's a male structure. So the only difference of the male structure, it has an entryway, and the female howan doesn't have, it just has the door. And the male howan has a extended entryway. And so they had the same concept there, as well as they had the women sitting to the north and the men sitting to the south. However, the difference is that when a person, male or female, comes into our howan, then they come in the door from the east and go around clockwise. But in Altais, at the ceremonial place that we entered, they asked the women not to come on the men's side and go around clockwise, but go around counterclockwise and sit with the women on the north. That was only like one specific difference right there. And so it goes that, of course, tribal people anywhere in the world that meet one another, we recognize each other because we're born into connection with the land and with the animals and the plants and these stars, and the natural order includes everything as living, alive. And so we recognize each other in our body language and our eye contact, even if we've never met before. And I experienced that in Seattle when I moved into a place where I had a roommate that was from Nigeria. And we immediately, she told the other women there that we have a mother in the house. And so that's a tribal person of our whole repertoire, because we're related to nature, we're related to each other. And so Siberia was interesting, that when I first got there and heard the first group of young people in throat singing to us outdoors, then tears just start streaming down my eyes, because I saw my own late father come in front of my face and show me that he was there with me. And also when I got on the horse to ride for 4 days up the Ukak and down the other side, the Ukak Plateau, one of the largest mountains where we could see Siberia Mountain. We were in Siberia, but we could see Mongolian mountains in Mongolia and mountains in China, and we could see the Mount Beluga mountain, glacier mountain that we had just walked 60 miles in and out of. We could see that from there. So I know. And then when I got on that horse for that horse trek 4 days, my father's father, who used to let me ride his horse in his yard, he came to me. He showed himself to me, and I know he protected me during that period of time. So what that says to me is that, of course, we're calling ourselves five-finger people, and that does translate to, literally it translates to five-finger people. So we're also called Earth surface people, and you can recognize that these are inclusive, even how I've simplified them into English to convey the universal inclusiveness, because this language, there is not any way to say that it's not, you're not included. It's impossible. And so the similarities, of course, come from what I call common sense. Common sense means what works for generations and centuries to keep people, number one, to have the woman who is the life giver and nurturer, and every child is born through the water and born to their father's image or footsteps as a protector provider. So right there you have a healthy helping teamwork between male and female. Whereas in one Western culture, this is one example, that the consequences are very sad to not only to observe but to experience in male domination and female submission. And so that's why the language must convey the natural laws that govern us equally. How could anybody survive without being connected to the land and the elements, the four sacred elements? We couldn't survive on a belief system, or we couldn't survive if we thought we were born in some deficient, lacking in some way, something is wrong with us. We don't have those terminology or that context, or even the words. There's no way you could say I am and then say that you're deficient in some way.
Right.
So tribal people, including the people there, and the similarities in dress and sounds and customs, they come about by common sense for collective survival, and mostly by group consensus. You cannot have people being pit against each other in such a way that you're in perpetual adversary and conflict. The main message is for all of us is to take care of the children, because when in the medicine ways, we're told that all children are our children. And that's what we've been told, to tell other people to take care of the children. People are taking care of a lot of other interests, but we have children who are without food and shelter, and also even without parents and so on. So let's take care of the children.
Oh, okay.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Patricia. Have a wonderful evening. Bye. And I want to hug you.
Bye for now.
Bye. Okay, bye.